go ahead and get started. So first of all, welcome and thank you for joining us today. Before we begin the webinar, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. First, this webinar will be recorded and available online at www.miteksystems.com. All questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So go ahead and enter your questions in the Go to Webinar sidebar in the questions section, and we will get to those at the end of the webinar. We would also like to invite you to join the mobile account opening conversation on Twitter by tweeting to #MAOChat or mobile account opening chat. That's MAOCHAT. We would also like to thank our sponsors for helping us put this webinar on, and they are Malauzai, Cachet, and Zoot. So, without further ado, I am pleased to introduce Peter Wanamaker, Senior Analyst at Forrester Research, to begin the presentation. Peter?
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for coming and listening and tweeting. We had a great tweet jam. Silly name, but very interesting experience, and actually great experience not too long ago. And thank you to all the sponsors and to Mitek for having me. So without further ado, I am here to talk about mobile and the future of financial services sales, the kind of the rising role of mobile in the financial services product purchase journey. The agenda today will go in three parts. I call them sort of the three hows, which the screen does not seem to be moving. I'm going to try one more time. There we are. Hold on. All right, so first we're going to talk about how consumers today shop for financial products and the role that mobile is playing and in some ways is not playing, and the lacking support for mobile sales and for, in many cases, mobile-driven cross-channel sales by banks, by insurers, by wealth management firms, by financial providers more broadly. The second thing we're going to talk about is how leading banks, leading financial services firms are using mobile as an acquisition tool, as a touch point for customers as they move through the financial services product purchase journey. And third, we're going to talk about the future, how mobile will change the future of financial services sales. Obviously, this is just a webinar. Hopefully, we can pack in a lot of value. We will not cover everything that will change about mobile and everything will change about financial service sales, but we will cover a lot. So I'm very excited. So let's get started. As I said, we're going to start by talking about how consumers today are shopping for financial products. And I want to start by giving kind of a broad, very rough, but very important sense of the market sizing here. And it's big, right? So about 44% of U.S. online adults applied for a financial product in the past 12 months. So this was, roughly speaking, the second half of 2013 and the first half of 2014. This accounts for more than 100 million people, right? So this is a lot of folks. This is a big market. Very quickly, how we define online adults is anyone who goes online monthly or more often. For those of you wondering, yes, that is the vast majority of U.S. adults at this point, and frankly, even U.S. children, although we're not looking at that. So this is a big market, right? This is a lot going on here. And a really important element here that has not changed and will not change and is somewhat outside the scope of the mobile-driven aspect of this is what drives folks to buy financial products and services more broadly. And the answer is actually relatively straightforward, right? We live in a very complicated world. The purchase journey is very complicated and getting more so. But the drivers, and essentially it comes down to one type of driver, has remained the same for decades and will remain the same for years to come. And that is life events. Life events are the #1 driver of financial services product purchasing across all types of financial products and services. This is what we see. So the baseline here is what we saw on the previous slide, the 44%. As you can see, things like getting married, moving, changing jobs, getting divorced, right? Some whether positive or negative, major life events are the #1 driver. So it is very different than some other industries, and I think that, although some certainly share that, the big takeaway here is that life events drive financial services product purchasing. Now that does not mean it drives which brand those shoppers choose. It doesn't drive how they shop for that. We're going to talk about that in the next couple of slides and over the course of this webinar. But it does mean that's the driving force. And it means that financial providers need to be aware of that, need to design mobile-driven, or at least mobile-enabled, purchase journeys that align with life events, that align with customer journeys. And we're going to talk about how some leading firms are doing that, and we're going to talk about how that will change going forward. So now let's talk about how they actually shop for them. Broadly speaking, digital shopping is pretty solid when it comes to financial services products, right? So we'd like to see some of these numbers go up. What you're looking at here is among applicants for a particular type of product, the percentage who applied for that product through a digital touch point. So in this case, we are including PC, mobile, and tablet. So as you can see, right, credit card, quite a high number, not surprisingly. Auto insurance, checking accounts, auto loans, substantial. As I said, we would like to see some of these numbers go up. The clients that I work with on a regular basis would certainly like to see some of these numbers go up, and there's a lot they aren't doing well and can do better to embrace and enable online applications and in some cases tablet applications. But what I want to focus in here is what slice of this is accounted for by mobile, because 5 years ago it was virtually nothing, and the honest truth is even today it's a very small percentage. So this is the same base that we saw on the previous slide, but this is the percentage of those applicants who apply via mobile, right? So it's all under 5%, right? And these are some that actually have some support, right? There are a couple of credit card companies. Capital One, we'll show you later, does a pretty good job of letting you shop for and then actually apply for a credit card via a mobile device, but it's very small. As I said, some of this is supply side, some of this is demand side. To talk about why it's demand side, we want to think about what's going on here. And we'll talk about that in a few slides. But first I want to talk about whether or not mobile is playing a different role, right? If it is not the channel or the touch point that customers and product purchasers are using to actually apply for it, are they using it to do research? And the short answer is yes. And we're seeing this number go up considerably year over year. So when we look at how folks research, in this case we're looking just at checking accounts, we see that about 10% go to a financial provider's, a brand's mobile website or mobile app. This 10% is pretty consistent across products. It varies. Insurance actually is a little bit ahead. When we look at things like credit cards, they actually look at a wider range of mobile touch points. So they look at financial providers, apps and mobile websites, but they also look at some comparison websites. We'll talk about those disruptors later. But broadly speaking, what we're seeing, the lesson, the story of the last three slides, including this one, really is that mobile today is playing a role, a growing role, an increasing role in the financial product purchase journey, but continues to play a very small role when it comes to the actual application portion of that purchase journey. We think that's going to rise, but the big lesson here that we're pulling away from this, as well as the other work we've done, Forrester does, ongoing research, right, working with banks, is that in a sense, banks, financial providers will need to take a two-pronged approach. So on the one hand, if you work at a financial provider or if you partner with a financial provider, you will need to be thinking about the role mobile can play as an application channel, right? Something that we'd like to see increase and we think can be embraced and enabled. But you will also need to be thinking about the role mobile plays as part of a cross-channel journey. Because as we said, mobile continues to be limited in terms of application. One of the reasons for that I'm going to show you in the next slide, which is that customers, consumers, the kind of folks that shop for financial products, are relatively wary of mobile. So this is 3 different statements that we ask our survey respondents. We ask them, I feel secure making purchases on, so this is bigger than financial product purchases, but I think it's still a guidepost. PC, laptop or desktop, tablet device, and a smartphone. And as you can see, there's no question that today the perceived security on PCs is much higher than the perceived security on tablet, and even more so relative to smartphone. Now, those of us who work in this industry know that often the concerns they have are really about back-end systems that these all connect to, right? So this is not about true security. This is about perceived security. But as a result, it tends to identify what I mentioned a few moments ago, which is that there is a two-pronged approach that banks and other financial providers will need to take care. One is to embrace the role that mobile can have as a full shopping touchpoint, complete part of that financial product purchase experience. The other is mobile's role in a cross-channel purchase journey. The problem we're seeing is that financial providers, banks, etc., really aren't there yet. So this is one example of direct mail I got from a credit card company. I've got something similar from insurance and wealth management, where they are offering some cross-channel options, but they're relatively poor. And I'm going to give you an example in the next slide that's more specific and comes from a brand that does a lot really well. In fact, I'm going to show you a best practice from them later on. But right now, I'm going to show you a less good practice, which is this idea that Discover, rather than using mobile photo-enabled tools or QR codes, which can be iffy, so I'm not preaching them as the end-all be-all or a silver bullet, but instead of that, Discover sent out this direct mail piece that says, hey, we're going to help you cross-channel shop, right? We're going to send you this direct mail piece, but we want you to go online, because that's where everyone tends to start their research part of their purchase journey. Here's the invitation number, right? 9811. I will not bore you on the webinar with every single digit on here, but it's a long one, right? This is where financial services providers are, generally speaking, falling short when it comes to cross-channel journeys more broadly, but especially using mobile as an enablement tool to create better cross-channel journeys and cross-channel purchase journeys specifically. As well, there's the other prong here, right, which is mobile as a sales touchpoint, which is useful, can be useful, I should say, for a variety of products. So right here we're looking at just checking accounts, savings accounts, right? So Chase, which again does a lot well, right, leads in our mobile banking review, that is Forrester's mobile banking review, but still has some work to do, right? When you Google Chase savings accounts on your mobile phone, you are led to a website, a public website, that is not mobile, is not responsive and is not mobile optimized, right? So there's a lot of pinch and zoom. So the far left shot here is the first thing you see, right? That is not very helpful. Pinching and zooming leads to content that is garbled. It's hard to figure out what you want to figure out, right? In contrast, we'll show you some best practices in a few slides. And then on the right-hand side here, right, there's this City's mobile app, which does some great stuff, but it's the heart and soul of it is all about service for existing customers, not the opportunity to use mobile as a touch point through which a customer can do some research and actually apply for various products, especially simple ones like savings accounts, credit cards, relatively simple ones. So moving on to the next part of our agenda, I want to talk about how leading banks are using mobile for acquisition. So first of all, the big takeaway for us is that they're still experimenting. We're still seeing a wide range of mobile tools, mobile initiatives for sales efforts among financial service providers more broadly. This is a loan calculator on the left from USAA, a sort of unquestioned leader in this space. BB&T redesigned their mobile website so that it was not just for existing customers. And Discover has embraced, in some ways, mobile as a sales touchpoint for various deals, including some credit card opportunities. But it's still being, they are still experimenting. That is very clear, and that will continue for the next 5 years. I think we'll see definitely some consolidation around certain aspects of that. Things like mobile branch appointment scheduling or mobile financial advisor appointment scheduling for more complex products. We're going to start to see that, and we'll lay out some of that in the later section. One bank that has been really ahead of the game here is an Australian bank, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, otherwise known as CommBank to their friends. Not working. Let's see if this is. Apologies, the slides. There we go. So they were ahead of the curve, right? This is actually a couple years old. They use not just mobile, but actually augmented reality to align their mobile strategy, their mobile sales strategy with life events, which we know are the #1 driver of financial product purchase journeys, and with the customer journey itself. So when a customer is out, when a prospect is out looking at houses, they actually let them use augmented reality to see what the estimated value of that home is, and then to easily set up an appointment with a specialist, with a representative, with a salesperson at a local branch, so that they could talk to them as part of that. That is embracing mobile as part of a cross-channel purchase journey. They've done a lot of other good stuff. One thing that they are toying with, that other leaders are toying with, and this is what we believe will be a best practice going forward, is the use of APIs, right? Banks have not traditionally been as good at this as some other folks, right? So Forrester has talked a lot about Uber and other brands like United and Hinge, right? Dating apps. A wide variety of folks are using Uber and using APIs to enable integration. And we're starting to see a little bit of that. One of the real kings there is American Express, right? They are really willing to partner with, I wouldn't say anyone, and certainly the experience of partnership varies, but they did some partnership with Uber to make that a part of what they're using. So using mobile as a sales opportunity for a variety of aspects of customers' lives. So we also believe that financial institutions, financial service providers are and should and will use mobile as part of the purchase journey and their design for customer experiences for more complex products, right? So Allied Irish Bank, we did a big case study on them. They've actually used mobile as part of their mortgage purchase journey, the design around that. A variety of elements, including SMS, right? SMS is clearly not the touch point through which you apply for a mortgage, but it has a role to play. Edward Jones, a wealth management firm, uses mobile videos to engage prospects and then ultimately guide them to financial advisors, right? So again, it's part of that cross-channel experience. And what all of this means is that financial providers will need to, and leading financial providers already are, engineer three key elements. So Forrester, in our broad recommendations around how to embrace mobile and deal with what we call the mobile mind shift, is to focus on mobile moments and to use something we call the IDEA framework. Right? Identify, design, engineer, and analyze. I'm going to focus in here, and a lot of the work that financial providers need to do when it comes to mobile sales has to do with engineering three components: people, processes, and platforms, right? These vary in terms of to what extent they are internal, right? The processes, the platforms, APIs have a role to play here as well. This is something we're going to see leading banks need to do more of, and successful firms are already in this place. So how are things going to change? This brings us to our last part of our agenda, some of the predictions. So number one, and this is not surprising to anyone who's listening to this webinar, but I think it's important to note, since it is the driving force of a lot of why you need to be thinking about this, and financial providers and their partners need to be thinking about this. Mobile adoption, mobile devices, ownership, and usage is going to grow considerably, right? So this is a global view of this. Smartphones already account for the majority of mobile phones in the US, but tablets are growing, smartphones will grow, continue to, and usage will continue to grow. But more important than device adoption, in my view, will be the expectations that customers have. And we believe those are going to be rising as well, right? So this is right now, and actually this is even this is a year old, 62% of your customers, that is the average consumer, expects a mobile-friendly website, expects a mobile app, and expects a location-specific experience, which is going to matter for some products, right? Certain aspects of insurance, if I'm at the dealership, certainly aspects of things like mortgages, home loans, and in some cases, personal loans. So what we think is that, broadly speaking, twice as many folks will mobile shop by the end of 2015, so over the course of the next year, a little more than a year, right? So I want to be very clear, as we talked about earlier, there is this kind of bifurcation of mobile as a shopping tool, a research tool, and as part of a cross-channel journey, and mobile as a standalone channel, right, which is much rarer. And mobile as the application channel, we do think will grow, but will grow at a slower rate than mobile as part of the shopping experience. What we think is that mobile played a role in every aspect of the digital sales purchase journey. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these bullets, but what we view is that there are essentially four parts of the financial services. So this is part of the broader life cycle, customer life cycle that Forrester has outlined. This is the first four of those. And the last one we actually have switched a little bit from use to onboard, because really for financial services relationships, those first few weeks, months, and even really that first year plays a critical role when it comes to deepening the relationship and, frankly, cross-selling, upselling, engaging those customers. But mobile will play a role in every single one of these. You will also have to contend not just with the disruptive forces of rising customer expectations, but also disruptive forces such as actual disruptors, right? So this gives you another little data point that we've seen, which is as many customers who shop for a home loan are using mobile for a comparison site as are using, actually more are using it than are using the lender's mobile site or app, right? And Google, obviously one of the kings of disruption, wants a big slice of this pie. They are using 2015 as a big effort, specifically in insurance and lending, to offer comparisons to customers in PCs and tablet and in mobile search. So we're going to see a lot more disruption in this place. It will mean that banks and other financial providers will need to be part of this purchase journey. They need to align with the customer life cycle and with the customer journey itself. And as I said, successful strategies will do so. We're starting to see this a little bit. I showed you from Combank earlier, Chase, who we dug a little bit earlier, where they need to do there's some room for improvement in some aspects of their mobile website, or their website, I should say. But they have done some things very right? They have used some iCloud, some cloud technology, as well as the mobile space, mobile as a touch point, as a range of touch points, to enable better customer journeys for those looking for new homes and looking to get mortgages, right? So this is the Chase My New Home smartphone app. The question of thin apps versus fat apps is something that will continue to go. We think this needs to be part of their full mobile experience for customers and for prospects, but it's a really powerful tool and one that we think aligns with customers' life events and the customer journey itself. As I said earlier, mobile moments will be the battleground more and more. So these are two examples, right? U.S. Bank offers a pretty solid mobile website for those customers who are looking for checking accounts, credit cards, student banking, even small business, right? When you search for U.S. Bank via Google's app, you are able to easily access that. The website is mobile optimized. Other folks are certainly doing this. SunTrust, right, has broadly speaking, a lot of their content, their sales content, is now using responsive web design. And U.S. Bank is used as part of the onboarding process, right? So adding a new biller, something that used to take quite a while and often was a frustrating experience, they offer now mobile photo bill pay, in which in under 3 minutes, and we wrote a blog post about this, please feel free to check it out. It's a couple years old, but it's still very valuable. You can get a new bill from a biller that your bank, in this case U.S. Bank, has no idea that you are a customer of that biller, and instantly, not instantly, in under 3 minutes, turn them into a payee and actually pay that bill. And this is an example of something we call innovating the adjacent possible. We believe banks and financial services firms more broadly will be doing this, right? We stole this from evolutionary biology. Whether you want to focus in on this exact concept of innovate the adjacent possible or not, the idea of innovation and of mobile-enabled better shopping experiences for customers, for prospects, is going to be very powerful. And one example of that is the one I just mentioned, which is this U.S. Bank mobile photo bill pay, right? Something that is, that is for both existing customers and for new customers. And it's an example of what we're starting to see in terms of innovation. Things like mobile account opening using mobile photo-enabled pictures of the application, the paper application that's sent in the mail, or the license to do pre-fill, making those customer experiences more convenient. And frankly, embracing the opportunity that mobile offers for financial product purchases. And with that, I'll be handing it back to Mitek. I want to thank you very much, and I'll be part of the questions later on.
Great. Thank you, Peter. That was great. At this time, I would like to introduce Sarah Clark, who is the Vice President of Product here at Mitek. Take it away, Sarah.
Thank you, Amber, and thank you, Peter. As Amber mentioned, I'm Sarah Clark, and I head up product here at Mitek. Today, I'll be showing you how our mobile photo account opening product can help you create compelling and easy user experiences as you look to seize the market opportunity and the best practices that Peter has so nicely outlined. So first, a little bit about Mitek. As most of you likely know, Mitek is known best for our flagship product, Mobile Deposit, which of course empowers users to take a picture of their check to deposit it. We have over 3,000 financial service providers using it and 33 million plus and growing end users that are actively engaged with Mobile Deposit as part of their daily, weekly, or monthly lives. A growing portion of those users are also enjoying mobile deposit through our MySnap user experience. So in the past, a user would have to hold their phone, click a button to take a picture of their check. Now a growing portion of those users can hover their device over their check, and the picture is automatically taken for them when the conditions are perfect for success. So this is important in the context of account opening because that's a large segment of engaged users who enjoy and are comfortable with the user experience around taking a picture to drive a key financial transaction. There's a tremendous opportunity to leverage this familiarity and widely adopted user experience for other use cases, and mobile account opening is a great example of this. So what is Mitek mobile photo account opening? I like to say that this is really a suite of products that allow that same take a picture user experience to be applied to key steps in the account opening, enrollment, or quoting process. So imagine a user who can take a picture of their driver's license to provide the identification and the data needed to start an account opening or enrollment process using that same experience they know so well for mobile deposit, or a check to provide ACH information to fund the account, or a utility to provide current proof of address. So all of these possibilities provide the user with the benefit of eliminating manual data entry. This, of course, provides benefit to the financial service provider of less abandonments and more users making it through the funnel. And of course, there's data integrity. So we know from talking to the market that data integrity can be an issue, causing exceptions that everyone's looking to minimize. One example I've recently heard is users not always scrolling to their date of birth when asked in a mobile form. So obviously I was not born on November 2nd, 2014, but if I don't scroll down quite far, in my case, I'm not going to end up with the right year. That's going to cause an exception, time, and money. So being able to start the process with a picture and having the data returned accurately can mitigate against those exceptions and improve data integrity. So I'm going to get to a demo next, but really quickly at a high level, here are some of the features that I'll be showing you in our demos. First, we support US ID documents. So take a picture of your driver's license, your state ID, or your passport to start the process. We also support funding documents. Take a picture of your check, take a picture of the credit card to provide funding information for a new account. We support trailing docs, which of course is a very broad category. The example I used earlier is maybe a remittance coupon to provide verification of a current address. There's, of course, many cases, many different examples of trailing docs. The key here is that these components can be put together to support flexible workflow options that support the different account types that might be opened. So a credit card might be different than a loan, than a bank account, than a quote, etc. So the elements can be flexibly put together to fit the needs of the specific account opening process. Of course, we support native apps using our MySnap touch-free user experience. And we also now support mobile web. We're in a pilot phase with that, bringing it to market very soon, and I'll also be able to demonstrate that. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and go into the demos. So I did pre-record these just because I didn't want to end up with lags from the webinar or anything like that. But these are, real demos showing our live technology using real apps. And the first is actually a native app. And you want to look at this from considering it under two possible main use cases. The first, of course, is a customer self-service use case where the customer themselves are enrolling for something. The second is also an employee-assisted use case. So maybe imagine that this isn't a phone, but rather a tablet assisting a customer with signing up for a new account, maybe at an event or just in a more kind of modern branch or a retail location, maybe signing up for a credit card. So let's go ahead and go into the demo. And the first thing that it's going to ask me to do is to take an image of my driver's license to provide that upfront information and identification. This is our MySnap user experience, where it's actually capturing that image for me when it detects that the conditions are perfect for that. It's now going to ask me for the back of my driver's license, and what we're really capturing here is the barcode. And then both of these elements get submitted so that the data can be returned. As you can see, that's all of the data that you can basically see on the front of the driver's license, so everything gets returned. I might now need to submit something else along with this application. So I'm going to choose a utility bill. Maybe I need to show my current proof of address. And again, it very quickly detected the utility bill and took an image for me, so I had a touch-free user experience. Assuming that all of that worked, maybe I get approved and I need to fund the account. So again, using that familiar touch-free MySnap user experience, I can capture an image of a check which returns the routing number and account number that can then be used to initiate an ACH. So as you can see, from a user experience standpoint, I provided quite a lot of personal information to start the process from my driver's license. I provided my utility bill seamlessly with that mobile experience, and I also provided my ACH information. The number of times I had to use a keyboard, with the exception of clicking the next button, was 0 to accomplish all of that. So very easy user experience using an interaction that we know users love, which is snapping pictures. So that's our native demo. Next, I'm going to show you something very similar, but as a mobile web demo. So what this is I might be a user, I could be anywhere sitting on my sofa, and we know that users search and shop, as Peter mentioned, using the browser on their mobile device. So if I don't have a relationship yet with a company, I'm not necessarily going to download a native app until I know more and have shopped. So in this demo, imagine that I'm a user and maybe I just saw an ad on TV. I do personally watch TV curled up with my mobile device. So it's pretty typical. You see something, you want to learn more, you can do that immediately by opening the browser on your mobile device and typing what you just saw into your Google search engine. So that's how this demo starts out. Maybe I saw something about my bank, or I want a checking account. So I'm going to go ahead and search for a new My Bank checking account using Google on my Safari browser on my iPhone. And I'm going to see, there it is, my first Google search result. Great. I'm going to click into it. Hopefully my bank has a mobile optimized web page, which they do. I learn more. Wouldn't it be great if I'm really interested to be able to go straight into the process? So here I'm being prompted again to take an image of the front of my driver's license. I'm given some tips for how to be successful, and I can go ahead and capture that image. Once we know that image is good, again, similar to native, I can capture an image of the back of my driver's license. Because this is mobile web, it's not auto capture, but we do evaluate the image analytics in real time to ensure that that user captured a good image or gets real-time feedback. now that I've captured both images, the data can be extracted and returned back to me in that mobile web user experience. Again, very consistent with the native in that it's all of the data that's visible on the driver's license is available to be returned back into that process. So that's our mobile web demo. Hopefully that helped provide some insight into the possibilities that exist with mobile photo account opening and how to apply those take a picture user experiences into your account opening process. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sarah. At this time, we would like to open the floor for questions. We have a couple here waiting for us, but if you have any questions you'd like to ask, go ahead and type those questions into the GoToWebinar sidebar in the questions section. So our first question is, what are your thoughts on better money spent developing mobile apps versus mobile enhanced websites?
Sure. So this is Peter. I can take this first and then hand it over to Sarah.
Great.
So first, this is a bit of an analyst dodge, but I think it's the accurate answer, so I'm going to give it. The most important headline for me in an answer to this question is the long-term view of this, which is that the lines between those two continue to blur, will continue to blur, and that we, Forrester, are quite bullish on responsive web design and the role that responsive design can play in helping to not blur those lines for the sake of blurring them, but blurring them in a way that makes customer experiences good, in some cases exceptional, and contextual. And we use the word context to mean everything you know about the customer at the moment of engagement, so that they will have the best experience they can have through the device they are using, right? And we've seen some great examples of that. Folks like SunTrust have done this. I mentioned them earlier. BMO up in Canada actually just redesigned every aspect of the sales aspect, so their public website is now all responsive. So I want to be very clear that we are bullish on that. We do believe what will continue to happen is that we will see more hybrid apps, more launchers. I think at this juncture there are two reasons to still continue to spend money on apps. One is that customers do still expect to be able to go onto Google Play or go into the App Store, iTunes, or whatever app store they want to use, and download the branded version, right? They want to be able to do that, especially for existing customers, but even a lot of prospects. So there's value there in at least having a launcher, at least doing writing some of that in maybe perhaps a little bit of native code. And then the other aspect of this is that there is a greater degree of control. So there are some aspects, things like, so Capital One built a great comparison tool and actually a little bit of a recommendation tool that mobile prospects, or I should say prospects, can access via mobile devices. And there is value in, if you think you can create a great research tool or a great shopping experience via a native app or via writing part of that app in native code, there is still value in that. So broadly speaking, I think the money is shifting towards responsive. Right now, there is still, for sales, there's still value in both of them. And I think, I guess at this juncture, I'd say it's pretty even, but the sands are moving. The money should be moving away from a lot of spend on internal development costs for apps only. With that, I'll hand it over to Sarah to see if she disagrees or agrees or changes anything.
I agree with everything you said. I do think that responsive is important, and those mobile optimized web experiences are important. We've seen that in the data of the tremendous amount of users that are surfing the web from mobile devices now. We know on, for example, retail websites for the first time that's grown above desktop surfing. So it's very important to have those responsive or mobile optimized web user experiences and to allow users to do more, as I think that that's becoming the expectation. But the native user experience, of course, is something where it's still ahead. Lots going on with HTML5 and what you can really do now to create those compelling user experiences. But native is still got more possibility, right? So you need to retain that great experience on native for your existing customer base, but really invest in the shopping and searching support with those great mobile optimized websites.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And the last thing I'll say quickly before I hand it back for another question is that what we talked earlier about rising expectations, what customers were willing to do a few years ago, even last year, but are increasingly unwilling to do is say, oh, well, when I was on Safari or when I was on Google or whatever I was looking for it on the web and not able to find it, I'll just download the app, or vice versa. So what's becoming more and more necessary is to be proactive in both areas.
Great. Okay, let's see here. Another question is, I'm just curious about the technology for check capture. How is the data instantly verified as accurate?
So for the check mobile capture, which I assume this is referring to, we do have checks for RTN validity, for example, baked into the product. The accuracy of our ability to return check data is extraordinarily high. Mobile deposit, of course, has been a main area of investment of Mitek for many years. So yes, there are checks built in, and the accuracy is extremely high.
Great. Next question. What are financial brands seeing with regard to consumers abandoning the application before submitting?
So Sarah, you may have some specific data. I'll hand it to you after this. If it's all right, I'll take this first. I can't share what our clients, what Forrester's clients have told us in terms of numbers, but what I can tell you is that application abandonment continues to be a major, I'll say issue. I think it is an issue, but it certainly remains a major force in this area. That is true online. It is tablets a little bit more of a mixed bag because it's rarer, and maybe there's some better design choices by some of the banks that have done it. And then in mobile, it's actually even higher than online in general, even when a bank does offer it. So that's still a major problem. That's part of the reason that a lot of what I was speaking about was acknowledging that mobile is often part of a bigger cross-channel customer journey. I will say, when we look at why customers are doing that, so when we do custom research projects and we do deep dives into why that's happening, a lot of it has to do with difficulty of either difficulty knowing what to enter, or the inconvenience and frustration of the inconvenience of having to do a lot of data entry, take a lot of steps, etc. The phrase we use, so we talk about convenience as all the benefits of a product or service or experience minus all the barriers. And something that we say is that every action is a barrier, so every action the user needs to take, so that's a gesture or a data entry or a click. And so I will say that one of the reasons that I think mobile's role in account opening can be very powerful is if you can simply take a picture of your license and have that, what would normally take, let's say 27 different actions on the part of the prospect, and whittle it down to three to five, you are going to see a lot less application abandonment. I think we can safely predict that given what we've seen online and through some mobile test cases that we have been able to do. So the answer to the question is that application abandonment is still very, very, very high, and I think it will continue to be somewhat high because that's the nature of the customer purchase journey. So banks that think they can get everyone through the digital door and don't design great cross-channel experiences are going to have a problem. But I do think they can reduce that through some of the technologies that we've actually talked about and Sarah talks about, which hopefully is a great handover to you, Sarah.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that you said, and I don't necessarily have stats that I can share during this webinar, but I will corroborate that in talking to customers, rates of abandonment are very high right now for mobile enrollment, And as you saw in my demo, from a user experience standpoint, I went through 3 very, what could be data-intensive steps of a user experience, and I used my keyboard, 0 times. In the native experience, I didn't even have to click a button to take the image. So that's a lot of friction removed for the end user, and every point of friction that can be removed results in more users making it through the funnel. So it is important to use the unique attributes of the mobile device, the camera. Users love taking pictures. You can combine those to remove significant friction. Nobody likes to be on a mobile device and see a form that they need to fill out. It's so much easier to take a picture. That removes friction, and we expect that to have a significant impact on the number of users that get further through the funnel to completing those applications.
And one last comment I'll make is to draw attention back to a slide that I used early in my presentation, which is that fairly or unfairly, and it's often unfairly, but there are some good reasons, especially in the news, customers are wary about mobile security. The perceived security of mobile is poorer than the perceived security of tablet and far poorer than PC. So I think that these kinds of tools can help start the application process, and the most successful financial providers will use things like mobile photo-enabled account opening to start that process, but even some customers who are willing to take those couple of pictures and start the process might then want to pass it along to an advisor or to finish it via their PC later on or something like that, and successful firms will enable those cross-channel journeys because they know that our data and other people's data show that, again, right or wrong, perceived security continues to be a part of that mix.
Thank you. Next question, what are some of the ROI levers for mobile account opening and onboarding?
So this is Peter. I mean, I think that the opportunity cost is a lot of what we end up talking to our clients about. Not so much of what's interesting about the current lay of the land is that because so many, let me flip that, so few banks and financial providers offer much in the way of mobile sales, for the last 5 years, it's actually been pretty safe assumption that a customer, because we know life events drive these, so someone doesn't just say, maybe I'll get a credit card. They, for whatever reason, most of the time, have a reason they want to open a new credit card, and they're going to do that. So if no one's offering good mobile sales, that kind of means everyone's in the same boat, or at least the same boat in terms of mobile, and that's okay. So that's been true for a couple of years. That's becoming less true as a few banks, I've shown you some of them here, start to do a better job experimenting with and actually finding successful initiatives when it comes to mobile sales. So there is at some point going to be a differentiation. That's happening today, and then there is an opportunity risk. That's the biggest things we're seeing. From a cost perspective, if you can get that application abandonment rate down among customers who do want to apply via mobile or through all digital channels, right? Maybe they want to start it on mobile and then go home and finish it PC. That does have some cost implications, but the most powerful ROI levers we're seeing have more to do with creating great experiences that then engage customers and actually increase acquisition rather than just playing a cost game, because the honest truth is that a lot of these are still relatively expensive, not as much as building a new branch, but they have, those are the various levers we've talked about with folks. And actually, the last thing I'll say before I hand it over to Sarah is if you want to check out #MAOchat, I answered that question with a couple more examples, when we did our MAO chat not too long ago. So please feel free to check it out.
So this is Sarah. I think we can leave it at that. I don't have a lot to add. I'm going to pass it over to Amber.
Okay, great. And at this time, we are going to go ahead and end the webinar. I mentioned before, this webinar, it has been recorded and will be added to the Mitek Systems website. You can find it at www.miteksystems.com. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you, Peter, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you to Sarah and to you and to everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.